Hello dear students, I hope you're doing good. Today we're gonna study an introduction on tourism economics. So as you know, tourism is an economic branch related to a third economic field. Uh, to keep you in mind, we have a primary economic field which regroup all the agricultural activities, secondary economic field which regroup all the industrial activities, and we have third economic field which regroup all the services. So tourism is related to the travel and leisure services. Okay, so if we understand tourism from this point of view, we can say that tourism is an economic branch. That means that this field has its own economics, and if we study its economics, we can say an evolution, we can say a dynamic between supply and demand, the market evolution or market structure. We can also talk about tourism in the macroeconomic level, etc. So we're gonna start with the definition of the tourism as a general field, okay? And after that, we're gonna be interested into the macro level, the macro level, etc. As you can see, tourism is a social, cultural, and economic phenomenon which entails the movement of people to countries or places outside their usual environment for personal or business purpose. These people are called visitors, which might be either tourists or excursionists, residents or non-residents, and tourism has to do with their activities, some of which involve tourism expenditure. So let's clarify it. So if we don't have a people movements, that means we can't talk about travel, we can't talk about leisure, we can't talk about activities in the destinations, etc. So the first element which presents the tourism in an international level is the tourism demand, which is explained here by the movement of people. So as every economic field, if there is no demand, there is no supply, there is no prices, there is no dynamics between demand and supply. Of course, there is no market, and there is no market structure, there is no also a competition between suppliers, there is no macroeconomic impact, etc. So I hope you understand that there is a golden rule in the tourism field, which is the starting point of all the tourism activities, and also the points which impact and form the tourism supply is the demand, and demand is simply the movement of people. So these people, okay, are divided into two main categories. There is tourists and there is excursionists. Of course, both they are visitors into a destination. So what is the difference between a tourist and excursionist? So tourist is an overnight visitor. That means a person who travel from his birth place or his residence place, okay, to be more precise, and he travel into a new area, a new destination, and when he travel this new destination, here he spend the night. Okay, so in tourism we can say that night is equivalent to 24 hours, and we can also say that night is just check-in and check-out in an hotel or an accommodation establishments. Okay, so when this person, okay, he or she pass a night in a destination, here we talk about a tourist. And we have another case, okay, which is the excursionist. So what means an excursionist? He is also a person which travel to a destination, but he doesn't pass the night, okay, no check-in, no check-out. He also doesn't sit in the destination all the time, and he's just here for we can say fast travel, okay, or he's a passenger. He come, he gonna take some catering, I mean restaurant services, etc. He visits some places and go. So in this case, we talk about an excursionist or simply same day visitor. So now let's understand one of the most important tourism economics theories, which is the theory of Professor Claude Kaspar, entitled Tourism System. So, in every destination, in every tourism area, we have an implementation of an economic system. This system includes an interaction between demand and supply. And Professor Kaspar divide every tourism system into two categories. We have the interior tourism system and we have the external tourism system. So first of all, let's start with the interior tourism system. We have here the characteristics or the elements, to be more precise, of the demand and the elements of the supply. So what about the markets, etc.? We can say that. Okay, we can. Sorry, we're gonna see that. But now let's just focus on these elements: demand and supply. Why? Because the interaction between demand and supply creates a market, an economic market. Okay, so sorry. Now, if we give and focus into the tourism subject, I mean the demand, we can find several elements. These elements are homogeneous because all of them represents the demand and represents especially the clients, the consumers, the visitors, the tourists. So they are just a combination of the tourist segment. We can have, for example, here in subsystem number one, segment number one, we can have, for example, client or tourists interested by some activities like cultural activities. Okay, we can have another segment which is the business tourist. We can have also another tourists or another segment, for example, slow tourism visitor or slow tourist. You know this appellation. A slow tourist is someone who came into a cultural destination and try to extend its staying by discovering slowly all the attractions in the destination, of course. And also we can have another segments like events tourists. For example, we have a festival or we have a big event and there is tourists which gonna come for 1 week, etc. So here we just regroup all the kind of visitors that we can have, and we divide them into segments. Okay, so as I said, these tourists, I mean the demand, is the point, the starting points of all the other tourism components. Okay, so as you know, in every economic system, we have economic impacts which come from the demand into the supply. And of course, here, every tourist have an impact or also an effect, an economic effect, of course, on the tourism destination. And to provide, to take maximum of benefits from these tourist activities, we have to develop our supply. I mean the destination supply. So the destination supply, you can see here what we call tourism objects, is divided into the tourist location, tourism businesses, and tourism authority or tourism governance establishments. So let's start by tourist location. So as you know, here we can have a destination, for example, like France, okay, and uh, France is divided into multiple sub destinations, what we call a location. That's mean a tourism place, and of course, inside this location, we have tourism businesses, like for example restaurants, hotels, parks of attractions, etc. Okay, travel agencies, and many more. So, of course, to manage, also to regulate all of these tourism businesses, also to protect the tourism location, we need to have a tourism authority or simply a tourism governance system. A tourism governance establishment. So let's give you an example. For example, we have in Morocco the Ministry of Tourism. So the Ministry of Tourism uh, have multiple multiple activities, etc. And the major activity is to regulate, okay, to manage all the tourism businesses and also the tourism location its own. So without this interaction between the tourism location, the tourism businesses, and the tourism authority, uh, the destination will not respond clearly and I can say in optimal manner to the tourism subject's need. Because if we don't give the good, we can say the adapted businesses like hotels, restaurants, etc. If we are not managing the destination's attractions, etc., that means we are not fulfilling the needs of the subsystems of the tourism subjects. I mean the client, the consumer. So, as I said before, there is a dynamic between the tourism subjects and the supply. And this dynamic, this interaction creates a tourism market. Okay? So, if someday you are asked what does mean a tourism market, simply it is the result of an interaction between the tourism subject and tourism object. The subjects represent for us demand and the objects represent for us the supply. So now let's move into the external tourism system. So as you know, every market, international or national, regional or local tourism market, is simply a dynamic between the demand and the offer, between the consumers and tourist location, tourism businesses, tourism authorities, and many other actors that we can say we can say another time. But this market is impacted by external environment. How? For example, the economic situation in a country is very important because the economic situation can impact the purchasing power, also can impact the prices if we understand the inflation level, etc. And we're gonna see all of these elements in a particular course about tourism prices, etc. So also the external environment can be positive when we have a good social development or technological development, also it can be more interesting when we have an ecological protection, etc. And also it can be negative. It depends on the nature of the events, and also the nature of the, the development of many external elements. For example, as I said before, if in a country the tourism markets trying to develop itself, but there is a barriers. For example, there is no security. So this is so this is a barrier to develop the tourism market, because, or for example, natural disaster. So there is many external elements that can cause a perturbation on this dynamic between demand and supply, which gonna result on a distribution, sorry, on a perturbation of the tourism market in general. So here is an explanation of Professor Claude Caspar tourism system. I hope it is clear for you. And now let's move to the points that's gonna be studied in our tourism economics series. And here we're gonna study first the microeconomic theory, in which we're gonna see demand characteristics, utility theory, consumer choice, elasticities, very important points, and also the product characteristics, tourism products characteristics. So here also we're gonna study the mesoeconomic level of the tourism system. So we're gonna study in this level the market structures, destinations life cycle, clustering, tourism satellites accounts, etc. And the macro level, of course, we're gonna see the balance of payments and its very interesting role in the identification of the economic effects related to tourism activities, the multiplier effect, tourism and international trade theory. So thank you, dear students, for watching this introduction, and I hope I can see you well in the next course. Thank you so much.